Good morning, my name is Melina Moya and I am going to talk about coronaviruses in cattle. First, introduction. The role of coronaviruses in respiratory infections is still a hot topic of discussion since they have been isolated from sick as well as healthy animals and replication of disease is rarely successful. Bovine coronavirus infection is characterized by high morbidity but low mortality. The laboratory diagnosis is typically based on serological or molecular methods. There is no registered drug for the treatment of virus infections in cattle, and we are limited to supportive therapy and preventive measures. Let's see this video.
Morning in rural Texas, and some 500 cattle have been brought to market.
This is the Coryell County Commission Company cattle auction, one of more than 100 livestock sales events which take place across the state of Texas every week. The COVID-19 pandemic is changing not only the look of these events, but also the industry that they are a vital part of.
In the sales room, the Stetson-brimmed auctioneer rattles through 550 head of cattle in just under 3 hours.
80 down half, 80 down half, A&W 15 bulls, A&W 15 bulls.
While cowboy hats are a common sight here, sanitary face masks are rare. But the pandemic has put the strain on their industry. Demand and prices for cattle have dropped significantly. Rancher Robert Young brought 11 cows to sell at the auction. He can't afford to hold on to them until the market picks up again. But under the current climate, he's not expecting enough money for his beef.
Just how much have the prices gone down?
30, 40 cents. Last of March we got averaged $870 a head. Last week they averaged 570. Yeah, I worry all the time. That's how I make my living.
John Warnock was at the auction, but he was buying. However, he says under the pandemic, the public is watching its spending.
Yeah, the cattle market's not doing very well right now. When you're thinking about, sustainable, cheap food, if you're going to buy beef, most people are buying hamburger. They're not buying choice cuts, steaks, ribs, stuff like that. So there's not a whole lot of money in hamburger meat. If you turn in a whole cow into a hamburger and you're not getting any choice cuts off of it, there's not a lot of income to be made on it.
Indeed, the reopening of the meat-packing mills has caused controversy, with critics arguing that the industry movement has put its workers at great risks to provide the country with a meat they could potentially live without. Sid Miller is the Texas Agricultural Commissioner and argues that meat is essential.
It's essential to us Texans, I promise you that. We're not going to give up our meat, and I don't think anybody else is either. President Trump did the right thing. We have to feed our nation, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to those workers for a safe environment. We can do this in a safe manner, but we've got to keep those plants running and the food going to the consumer.
With the beef industry picking up again, producers like Robert and John hope it won't be long before prices pick up either. Alistair Baverstock, CGTN, Gatesville, Texas.
Now the clinical signs. First, the calf diarrhea. The virus can cause hemorrhagic diarrhea in calves. Most calves have yellow liquid diarrhea with mucus and blood clots. Dehydration, hypothermia, and depression. Reduced feed intake and electrolyte loss can result in metabolic acidosis and hypoglycemia. Then we have the winter dysentery. In adult cattle, this infection is characterized by self-limiting, watery diarrhea with the presence of blood fever, depression, and dehydration, anorexia, colic, and drop in milk yield. In several cases, anemia may occur because of blood loss. Let's see this video. Now let's talk about the diagnosis. On the diagnosis, it can be suspected based on history, clinical presentation, and age of the animal in entered cases. Differential diagnoses include Salmonella, Clostridium perfringens infection, rotavirus, and Escherichia coli, and Giardiasis. For the final diagnosis must be confirmed using laboratory assays like electron microscopy and virus isolation and serological or molecular methods. Now let's talk about the economic impact. The economic impact of winter dysentery is substantial, especially in dairy herds. The drop in milk production can vary from 0 to 70% per outbreak compared with the daily milk yield before infection according to different studies. And now let's talk about the prevention. The prevention of these diseases is important to limit the use of antimicrobials and subsequently reduce the occurrence of antimicrobial resistance, increase the quality of animal products and animal welfare. Thank you.